Alright, I think we're live. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. So just wait a second. I know it's on delay, but... So just let me know if you can hear me. So I'm not talking to nobody here. Alright, you can hear me? Alright. Jeremy, thanks for subscribing. I'm glad you liked the content last week. Hopefully we can do that again today. What's up, Hugh? What's up, everybody? Alright, so we're going to do the same kind of format as we did last week. I'm not going to look at the chat at the beginning. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about early, which is kind of like more GBP strategy. And then I'll look at the chat and answer all your questions. So if you want to ask questions early on, I'll go back and look at them. I'm not going to miss any questions. Or at least I'll try not to. It depends on how many people we get in here. But I know since like it's a Wednesday afternoon, we might not get as many people as we would on a Sunday when everyone's off work, but we'll see. So, yeah, welcome in. Leave a like down below, and here, I'll just talk some GBP strategy really quick. And actually, first let me talk about the rain. I doubt we get a race tonight. Just looking at the weather forecast, it's like supposed to dump rain. I know there's like a flash flood watch in South Carolina. It's like 3 to 5 inches of rain. Looks absolutely awful. So I'm doubting there's going to be a race tonight. I know NASCAR weatherman, I think his name's Brian something, said there's a 35 to 40% chance of a race tonight because there's like a little bit of break around 6 to 7. So we will see. Maybe we'll get a partial beginning of the race and they'll finish the rest on Thursday. I'm not totally sure. There is a break of the in the rain Thursday night. So it looks like we could get a race in Thursday night, but we will see. I'd like to go racing tonight, but again, I have no idea. I can't control the weather. So mainly I just want to talk about GPP because in my original video I like to pretty much just go over cash and obvious plays. And I'm not going to hit on everything because all my advanced stuff is on my Patreon, which I've gotten a lot of extra Patreon members over the past week, which is awesome, well over 100. So do appreciate the support on Patreon. If you're interested, hit the link in the description below. But anyway, let's talk, like for cash games, you're pretty much playing your place differential guys. I'm not really trying to start a guy up front and hoping he leads laps and finishes high because there's so many good place differential plays on this slate. Like just starting up top, Kyle Busch, he's 26th. Kevin Harvick, he's 20th. Truex, 15th. Hamlin, 16th. Elliott, 17th. Bowman, 19th. That's kind of where then Keselowski and Logano are up front. Those guys that are 10K and above, those are all of your cash game plays. Now, I think there's two really obvious cash game plays. You got, obviously, Kevin Harvick and Alex Bowman. They absolutely crushed last week. I think that's a really good start to go for cash games. Can you play both? I don't know. You're pushing it because when I'm building lineups, having two in the same lineup makes you force feed in some of these scrubs. And these scrubs are not in good starting spots, really, besides Corey LaJoie. And he's not like we're expecting much out of him anyway. So I feel like in cash games, you should probably pick between either Kevin Harvick or Alex Bowman. Bowman comes in at a pretty nice price at 10K compared to Kevin Harvick. I think Kevin Harvick's more likely to lead laps, but you're also paying $1,600 more. And there's only 228 laps in this race, so it doesn't mean dominator points are going to be as important as they usually would be. It's at Darlington because there's usually a lot more laps at Darlington than 228. So I think could be a good week. You can get away with some extra place differential plays instead of just trying to get your dominators. And the cool thing is, all these place differential plays can get up front too. Like any of these guys can get up front. Busch, Harvick, Truex, Hamlin, they're all capable of leading laps, even Alex Bowman. So I feel like in cash games, that's where you're going to want to go. And I expect Alex Bowman and Kevin Harvick to really be the highest owned of this first 6 drivers. So if you want to pivot off of the chalk and GPPs, I think right below them you have Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano. They're a little bit cheaper. They're in that 4-figure range instead of the 5-figure range, which, I mean, salary is tough this week. So whenever you can save salary, I would recommend doing so. But if you want to go in GPPs, you can go to the lower owned of the high-priced drivers. I think Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano are in decent spots. So Joey Logano, he is starting third. He's only 9,400. I know he didn't have the greatest race on Sunday, but the only drivers in front of him are Ryan Preece and Ty Dillon. And I'm telling you right now, they are not going to go up front and dominate. Maybe Ryan Preece leads the first lap, sure, whatever. But Joey Logano, he's got a much better car than those two. He's by far a better driver. He should get up front within a matter of a couple of laps, either him or Clint Boyer, Ryan Blaney, or Brad Keselowski. But Joey Logano's got the easiest path, so I would expect him to lead a good portion of this early stage. Now, if he finishes outside the top 10 and these other guys just absolutely crush and get a top 5, yeah, Joey Logano might be a pretty bad play. But in GBPs, if you want to play Logano, hopefully leads like the first 60-ish laps, something like that, and gets a top 5, top 7, there could be a decent chance he hits the optimal if you just crush your place differential guys. So I don't hate going with guys like Logano and GPP. You could also look with Brad Keselowski, who led over 70 laps the last race. Now he did benefit from starting on the pole, so he had a really easy path to getting up front. But he still had a good car. He faded late, which really hurt him, because Keselowski looked like he was going to hit the optimal lineup because he was crushing. Then very late in the race, he just faded and faded and faded, as did Joey Logano. But Keselowski, we know how good he is at Darlington. If you just look at his recent stats, I mean, he's has an average finish of 7.5, average running position of 5.5, 1 win, 3 top 5s. There's a good chance he can finish ahead of where he's starting, and there's a decent chance he could get up front and lead early as well. I mean, if Joey Logano's not showing the speed early, Brad Keselowski would be my second pick to lead laps early on. So I don't mind going with Keselowski and Joey Logano and GPPs. But in cash games, and even GPPs, they're much safer. But you got guys like Bowman, all those guys starting further back, which are the much safer options. But if we want to make your lineups a little bit different, Keselowski and Joey Logano I don't think are a bad way to go. Now, some of these really, really chalky options for place differential, you're going to look at Jimmy Johnson, William Byron, Chris Buescher, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and those are going to be like your really chalky guys from 7,900 to the 9K range, because they are starting in the back pretty much, and they are more than likely going to move up. And they're all pretty decent here as well, besides Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And I know Chris Buescher had a really disappointing race on Sunday, and obviously William Byron was looking really good, but then he finished terribly, but so did all these guys. That's why they're starting in the back. But let's start with Jimmy Johnson. He's really expensive at 9,100. Yeah, he's a very good play. We know how fast Chevy is. Hendrick Motorsports has looked amazing. We saw how good Alex Bowman was. Jimmy Johnson was up front at one point before he crashed with Chris Buescher. William Byron was like top 2 at one point, then he wrecked. And Chris Buescher just looked like crap the entire race. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr., as we all predicted, he crashed on turn 1, because you can't write a script any better than Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wrecking on the first lap. But these guys are going to be all high owned. Now, Jimmy Johnson, amazing, amazing play. William Byron, amazing play. Chris Buescher and Ricky Stenhouse, I think they're way overpriced. Now, Johnson and Byron are a little bit overpriced as well, but they're in better equipment. Chevys have been super fast. I have no problems with that. But if you want to pivot off of these chalky drivers in GPP, I think we have a really good section right around here. So chalk drivers would be Jimmy Johnson, William Byron, Chris Buescher, Ricky Stenhouse. I think pivoting to guys like Kurt Busch, Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, and GPPs is a really good way to get a little bit different. Now, I think Kurt Busch is still going to be high owned, but I think he'll be less owned than guys like William Byron and Jimmy Johnson, just because they're starting in the very back. And we know how good Kurt Busch is at Darlington. He finished, third? Top 3 last race? Yeah, he's starting 18, so yeah, he finished third, Bowman was second, Harvick was first. So yeah, Kurt Busch, he did what he usually does at Darlington. He gets up front, averaging 50 DraftKings points per race here, average running position of 8, 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s. He's basically a lock to move up, and I don't see why his price isn't higher. He was, 8,500 last race? I feel like he should be around 9K. So I like that his price didn't move up as much as guys like William Byron, Jimmy Johnson. And I know Kurt Busch is not starting all the way in the back, so he doesn't have as much potential for place differential, but I also think his finishing position is much higher than William Byron and Jimmy Johnson. So, and Kurt Busch, I mean, he has a chance to get up front too and lead laps. He was close to it last race. He got all the way up to second place at one point. So Kurt Busch, I mean, he's a really good pivot off of guys like William Byron or Jimmy Johnson in a similar price range. And another decent GPP play, just pivoting off the chalk, would be Eric Jones at 8,500. He is starting 13th, which is a little high, so I don't expect much ownership on Eric Jones. But he was 9,200 last race, and he ran very, very well. He was in the top 5 late, then faded a little bit at the end. But we know how good he is at Darlington. He's got an average finish of 5.5, averaging 60 DraftKings points per race here. Average drive rating of 107.1, does have a win, 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s. The guy is an absolute monster at Darlington. There's not much room for place differential, but it would not surprise me if Eric Jones gets the top 5 at the end of the day, and he could possibly get up front. He's done it before. He won the race last year at Darlington, led a good amount of laps. So Eric Jones, I think he's a fine pivot off of William Byron and Jimmy Johnson chalk. And then Tyler Reddick. So he is starting 14th, and I'm hoping this keeps his ownership down. I said in my original video that I thought he was a really good GPP pivot off of Ricky Stenhouse and Chris Buescher. And after I ran all my numbers, my projections, which you can get on my Patreon, I have them posted. We're going over them in Discord right now, discussing them, all that kind of stuff. And I'll be building lineups after lock. I already did preliminary lineups, but I think I'm going to edit them a little bit. But Tyler Reddick, I think he's a fantastic GPP play starting 14. So Stenhouse is 200 more, and he's starting 39th, which is the very back. So there's pretty much no downside with Stenhouse. But Stenhouse is pretty bad here. He has an average finish of 28.3, which again is going to be skewed a little bit from finishing last race. But before that, it still wasn't that pretty. Average driver rating of 55.2, average 7.3 DK points per race, only one top 15 the past 6 races here. Tyler Reddick's got a much better chance to finish a lot higher than Ricky Stenhouse. I know he's starting 14th, but he finished 7th last race, and that's not a fluke. He was running in the top 10, got a penalty on pit road, went back to the back, not all the way to the back, but went to the back, and then ran all the way back into the top 10. And he had one of the fastest cars on the track. And I was saying in my video for last week for the first Darlington race that I love Tyler Reddick. He was in my favorite plays on the slate, and I was surprised he came in a little bit lower owned than I thought he would. But starting 14th, I hope this keeps his ownership down. I mean, he scored 63 Draftkings points last race. That's not going to happen this time around because he's starting at 14, but he has the potential to top 10, like a legit top 10. He looked really good. Darlington's a very good track for him. Xfinity Series, he excelled at riding up high, and that's what you have to do at Darlington to run well. So I like Tyler Reddick a lot in tournaments just because of where he's starting, and I honestly think he has a good shot of outscoring Stenhouse pretty easy. So Reddick's a pretty good GPP play in my opinion if you want to get different from the field. Would I play Reddick in cash over Stenhouse? I don't know. That's a little bit iffy, but I will say I like Tyler Reddick quite a bit. And then after that, it's pretty much just a dumpster fire down here. Christopher Bell and Cole Custer are fine. I think that's where people are going to go in cash games for their cheap driver besides throwing in a guy like Corey LaJoie. But really, Bell, Custer, after that, I'm not comfortable with pretty much anybody. I think Corey LaJoie is going to be the chalk cheap driver. If you want to pivot to a little bit more expensive John Hunter Nemechek, that's fine. I know he's starting 12th, but he looked really, really good. And I think the cars that were fast on Sunday are going to be fast again. And do I think Hunter Nemechek's going to top 15? Probably not. But if he finishes anywhere above like 20, he should get you above 16 fantasy points, which I know doesn't sound great, but he's going to outscore Ty Dillon. He might outscore Michael McDowell. It's going to be close. I think Bubba Wallace is fine as well, but all these guys are really not in good starting spots. I mean, and I'm never going to play a guy like Timmy Hill. Brennan Poole starting a little bit too high. There's just really no one I have much interest. Ryan Preece, absolutely not. So after Christopher Bell and Cole Custer, it gets gross. I think Corey LaJoie is the obvious play, but if you want to pivot, maybe someone like Bubba Wallace or Hunter Nemechek, maybe even Suarez starting 25th is not terrible. But that's pretty much going to be it for the strategy. If you guys want to leave questions below, I will start to answer them right now after I get a drink. I don't think this video is going to be as long as the last one, just depending on how many questions we get, but there just wasn't as much to talk about just because we just had a race at Darlington, so you guys pretty much know all the stats already, so I wasn't going to go over them for like a 4th time this week, and you guys pretty much know the momentum now. Kevin Harvick's been great. Chevy's looked great. Alex Bowman, Keselowski's been on fire for the most part. Just getting up front, leading laps, and having strong races. But yeah, I'll just start to read the comments now. Let me see how many people are actually in here. Well, we got 98 on a Wednesday afternoon. That's not bad for a Wednesday at 2 p.m. Thanks to everyone that's already in here. But yeah, I'll start to answer questions now. So let me go all the way up top. And if you have a question you want to ask, do it now. I'll get there eventually. All right, so let's see. What's up, Hugh? Okay, let's see. MTV says, I was 80% Bowman last race. I told you that was really bold, and it worked out very, very well, so congrats to you. I did not have that much Bowman. I had a little bit of Bowman, and I was glad that I had a little bit of him because he absolutely crushed. I really expected Keselowski to hold that lead for pretty much the entire first stage, but Bowman, man, he looked really fast, and I see no reason to not have a lot of Bowman again this race. David says, hey, and I say hey back. Let's see, Mr. Miyagi says, hey bro, I'm literally watching your vid on my PC. That's awesome. Welcome to the video, if you're still here. Prospect Boy, what up? I haven't heard from you in a while. Nice to see you again in the comments section. I know you always used to comment on my when we did NBA and MLB, so it's nice to see you. Haven't heard from you in a while. Takumi, if I'm saying that right, says, yo. I say it right back. Michael says, what are the chances that the early Dominator points get spread out and do not benefit anyone? I think there's a decent shot. I think Logano's probably going to be the most likely to lead most laps in the first stage. But then you got Brett Keselowski there as well. I'm not too worried about Clint Bowyer or Ryan Blaney just because this isn't their best tracks. But, I mean, if Keselowski and Logano split it, I don't see really either getting into the optimal lineup if they don't finish inside the top 5 on one of the expensive place differential guys just don't pan out. So I'm not really that high on the guys like Keselowski and Logano, but I think they're fine if you want to get a little bit different in tournaments on a few lineups. Takumi says, yeah, I doubt we get a race tonight. I agree. I really don't have my hopes up for a race, so if we do get one, I'll be pleasantly surprised, but do not get your hopes up to race. I'm fully planning on not having a race tonight. Briz says, yo, Chris, hopefully Darlington clears up, but there's thunderstorms. Yeah, it's an absolute mess there. It's a downpour. There's like the parking lot's flooded. It's pretty bad there right now. X Jensen says, if there's a race tonight, who do you think will lead the most of stage 1? I'm leading towards Eric Jones. I have a lot of Eric Jones, so that'd be nice, but I would probably say Logano just because he's got the clearest path. Family Man says, I am scared of playing Ricky Stenhouse, but it looks like I have no choice with him starting last. What percentage of my lineup should he be in? Yeah, I'm scared of playing Ricky Stenhouse too. Now, I'm not going to give my exact ownerships out because that's on Patreon, but he should probably be at least in your top 10 of how your own drivers because he's a safe play. I mean, I understand if you want to play like Eric Jones ahead of him, but if Eric Jones only moves up a few spots and Stenhouse moves up like 10 to 12 spots, I mean, it's like the same kind of thing, but I think Eric Jones has higher finishing potential, if that makes any sense. But Stenhouse, you should definitely get him in your lineups, probably over 25%, but definitely want a decent amount of Stenhouse just because he's starting in the back. There's no downside. I just don't think he's going to finish that high. David put some race car emojis, and yeah, why not? Aaron says, agree with Reddick. Awesome. I think Reddick's a fantastic GPP play. You could play him at cash, to be honest. I think he's just... Oh, I lost my spot. Wow, there was a lot of... Okay. The Briz says, Tyler Reddick or Eric Jones for higher placement. I would go with Eric Jones just because he's had multiple races here and he's got an average finish of 5.5. I see no reason why Eric Jones can't crack the top 7 in this race. David says, did they cancel the Xfinity series? Not the entire series, but if you meant the race, yes, they did postpone it last night. I think they're trying to run it on noon Thursday, if I remember correctly, but I don't see how they're going to run it on Thursday at noon because it's supposed to rain, so we'll see. Aaron says, agree with Punt Chalk. Yep. Dylan says, what do you think of Suarez and leaving 1,000 salary in big GPP? Suarez, he's probably going to finish right where he starts, which usually doesn't sound good, but on this slate, it might not be the worst thing in the world because we got guys like Ty Dillon starting second, McDowell's up to 23rd, Priest is first. I mean, honestly, just if he finishes where he starts, it might not be the worst thing in the world, but I really don't have much Suarez whatsoever. And leaving 1,000 salary in big GPP. So last week, I think there was over 1,000 in the winning lineup. I want to say it was maybe close to 2,000. But this week, the pricing is really, really stiff. So I'm not planning on leaving much salary at all on the table because, I mean, all these good plays are priced up. So I feel like this is not a week to leave salary on the table. I mean, yeah, you're going to have a couple hundred in some lineups, but I wouldn't really try to leave a whole bunch of salary on the table. Paper says Suarez garbage. I agree. He is pretty garbage, but sometimes, hey, he fits the lineup. If he doesn't go backwards too much, it might work out. Aaron says, add another Xfinity race. Last night scheduled for Friday noon. Oh, did they reschedule it for Friday now? Well, that's interesting. Friday's supposed to be decently clear for racing, so we'll see. Scary Flying says, thoughts on Kenseth starting at 11. So I think he's probably going to finish right where he starts, but his price tag's not bad at 7,600. And if he finishes 11th, that's 30-something, so that's actually not the worst thing in the world. But I don't have much interest in Kenseth just because I don't think there's much upside. I don't see him really finishing inside the top 10, so I feel like he's going to finish probably right around where he starts. Probably get a 10th. Anywhere from like 9th to 12th place probably. I don't think there's much upside. I don't think there's much downside either. Let's see. OS says Boyer or Logano as an early dominator. I would go with Logano. I know Boyer definitely offers some salary relief, but I just don't see him leading ahead of Logano, to be honest. Although he could do it. I know he's led laps before at other races, but I prefer Logano. I don't have too much interest in Boyer. Michael says, how much of Brad K's green flag speed last race came from him starting P1? It definitely helps when you got the clean air, but just overall in his career, he's been very good at Darlington. He's been fast so far this season, so it's not like he's got a junk car. He just faded late, and he tends to do that some races. Keselowski will fade late, and then sometimes he'll have a junk car, then he gets up front late in the race, so Just didn't work out at the end for him, but I mean, so far this season, he's had a really fast car. Let's see. Aaron says Boyer on outside best value tonight. Yeah, he does have the preferred lane there, but I just don't see him leading over Logano or Keselowski too long, and I think he probably finishes outside the top 10, so I don't have too much interest in Boyer there, even though he is pretty cheap. Devin says, do I avoid Toyotas? No, because Kyle Busch, I mean, he's starting 26th. He's going to move up. He should race a lot better than he did last race. Denny Hamlin's a Toyota. He should have a pretty good race. You got Eric Jones in a Toyota. I think he's a pretty good play. And then, so I really wouldn't be avoiding Toyotas. Kelsey says, if you have a choice between Custer or Bell, who would you pick? I would pick Bell just because he's starting a few spots further back, but I will have similar exposure to both of them. I don't think there's too much of a difference there. I think Custer has higher finishing upside, though. Timothy says, how many pivots do you recommend for GPPs? Full lineup or just a few? I don't know. I mean, I build like 150 lineups, so I think like each one probably just changes a little bit. I'm not like in GPPs, just because Bowman and Harvick are going to be chalky doesn't mean you should not play them in GPPs. They're going to be chalky for a good reason. So maybe if you make a chalk lineup like, say, Bowman, Johnson, Byron, Buescher, maybe instead of plugging in a guy like Stenhouse, you can pivot to Reddick and a lineup, and then that just gives you a little bit of a difference. Because if you go full GPP, yeah, it can work out, but there is some downside to that. Frank says, Boyer or Logano? I would go Logano, but I realize there's a price difference there. MTV says, lowest price driver you will use? I think it's going to be LaJoy. Yeah, he's 5,500, so lowest price driver I'm willing to go is LaJoy. I gotta get a drink. Let me see how people are in here still. Alright, well, if it's updated, it says 98, so it's still pretty good. Alright, let me pop the chat back up. Alright, Brody says, do you have any interest in doing the Xfinity series? I do not. Especially when sports actually come back, like all the sports. I'll be doing baseball, and possibly NBA if it's coming back, and then football. So I really only have time to do the actual Cup Series, and I just much prefer doing the Cup Series because I actually have interest in that. And I don't like doing stuff I don't have interest in because I feel like the work won't be as good of quality. Marco says, would you take Bowman or Brad Keselowski in a GPP? I think Bowman's the better play. I know Brad Keselowski is going to be lower owned, but if you're just asking me who would you rather play, it's going to be Bowman, even though his ownership is going to be really high. Alan says, Logano or Jimmy Johnson? Jimmy Johnson. Just because he's starting last. Oh, lost my spot again. I'm sorry. Wow, okay. Kobe says, is this a 2-dominator race? Usually, Darlington, we want 2 dominators in our lineups, but there's only 228 laps here this time, and all the good drivers are in the back, pretty much, or the teens in back. So I don't really care about trying to get dominators because the guys that are going to move up can potentially dominate. So I'm just trying to get guys that can move up. I think it's a good, like, it's almost like a super speedway race, to be honest, where I'm trying to play all the guys starting in the back that I can. Although in super speedways, I play all the scrubs, which I am not doing at all, because scrubs work out in Daytona and Talladega. Not going to work out here, but it's kind of like a super speedway because I like Johnson, Byron, Stenhouse, Buescher. I mean, these guys aren't going to lead laps, but they're so tremendous plays, if that makes any sense. So I think picking a high-priced driver or two and then hoping they move up and get up front is the way to go. Jeremy says, confident on Nemechek and Reddick. Not confident on Nemechek, but I'm pretty confident in Reddick. I know he's starting 14th, but I think he can legit top 10. He's got a good car. He's been running really well this season. I mean, his average rank position is like 12, if I remember correctly. Let's take a look. Average rank position so far this season is 14.8, but I mean, he's just been running really, really well this season. I don't see why that would change anytime soon, especially since he just looked so good here on Sunday. CJ says, Logano starting inside, don't you think that hurts his chances of getting up front? Not really. We saw Brad Keselowski start in the inside on one of the restarts, and he passed Bowman right away. So just depends on how you do in the restart, and Logano's got the best car up front, so I think he'll be fine either way. Maybe he doesn't lead the first few laps. Maybe Boyer gets up front first, but I think over a couple of laps, Logano's going to get up front. But really, I'm not really going to play any of these guys either. I'm going to sprinkle them in, but I just don't have too much confidence in either just because. Sorry, I got an email, it distracted me, but there's just not much place differential upside. But if I had to pick whoever's going to lead the most laps in the first stage, it is Logano. I know he's on the inside. I just don't think it matters. We saw Brad Keselowski get the jump on the restart over Alex Bowman when he started on the inside last race. Timothy says, old men need help. As you can see, my boy Eric Jones is my man this week. 60% Jones. That's extremely bold. I'm not saying it's a bad choice. I think Eric Jones is a really, really strong GPP play. I mean, there's a good chance he can top 5. Heck, he can even get a front lead laps. We've seen him do it before. So I have no problem at all with Eric Jones. Andy says, do any drivers stick out that would be good / bad plays if they only get half a race in? Well, if they only got half a race in, guys like Jimmy Johnson, William Byron, Stenhouse, Buescher, I think it'd probably be a good idea to not play them and just play the guys that are starting closer like Kurt Busch, Jones, and Reddick, because if there's only half a race, that's less time for them to get up front. Not saying, I don't think they're only going to do a half a race though, so don't be fading these guys because I just said that. But, I mean, just like if we knew for sure they were getting half a race in, guys that were starting in the back would become worse plays because there wouldn't be as much time to get up front. And I guess that would help out guys like Logano as well. Matt says, are you leaning towards a balanced lineup or a dominator scrub lineup? I think balance might be a strong way to go because DraftKings forced us to go balanced because all the good drivers are expensive that are in good starting spots. Because usually DraftKings releases the salaries on Wednesday and the actual qualifying is not until Saturday. So they don't know how to price drivers based on qualifying. But since we knew the starting order beforehand, they priced guys like correctly. So it's a really tough week. I think balance might be the way to go. If people are trying to fit in Harvick and Kyle Busch in the same lineup, it's going to be really top heavy. And I'm not really sure that's the best way to go this week because there's only 228 laps. If there was like 400 laps, yeah, we're going to want 2 dominators and we'll just have to just skip out on some of these place differential guys. But with only 228 laps, I think place differential is going to be really strong this race. Takumi says, I think Stenhouse might wise up after what he just did. Don't see him doing it again, and he can drive all right when he's not wrecking. Problem is he loves to wreck, but I agree. I think Stenhouse is a fine play, but this has not been a great track for him. I would not surprise me if he doesn't finish inside the top 25, and if someone like Reddick can get a top 10, he's going to outscore him. I think Stenhouse is the safer play, but Reddick's got a lot more upside in my opinion. Hugh says, thinking of doing some lineup strategy just in case it gets shortened. Yeah, you could certainly go that way because, I mean, I don't think much, like really anyone's going to build lineups like that. So if you by some chance get a half race and you, I mean, it could work out. It could work out, but I'm personally not going to build lineups like that. Devin says, I would bet both races get ran Friday. So that's probably the best day they can race. The only problem is that Bob tweeted on Twitter that they need time to get their car set up for Charlotte. So it's a real crunch for time. So I'm not sure how feasible Friday is. It looks like it's the best day to actually race, but I'm not sure if there's going to be enough time to get ready for the Coke 600 if they do race late on Friday. So we'll see. But Friday does look the best weather-wise last time I looked. Beth says, love your info. You like LaJoy. You skipped analysis on him in the original video. I hope I didn't skip analysis on him. You might have missed it. I think I talked about him, but if I didn't, I apologize. But I do like LaJoy as a punt play. I don't think he's going to be anything impressive or spectacular. But if he can get us close to 20 points, we'll take it. He's not going to pull a John Hunter Nemechek or Ty Dillon and score over 40 and 60 points. But we just need him to survive and not wreck. And hopefully other place differential guys will work out. But thanks for liking the info. Paper says, I know it's cash, but doesn't Stenhouse seem risky considering he wrecks all the time and won't finish higher than 20? Just he's starting 39, so I don't think he's risky. And I know we like to make the joke that Stenhouse wrecks all the time, but he is capable of actually driving pretty well. He's not the worst driver in the world. It's just kind of like an ongoing joke that he wrecks all the time. So, I mean, as long as he has an okay race, he should come close to top 25, and he should be a pretty good play. Hugh says rain every day last week and forecast even for, I don't like the rain. NASCAR seems to, wherever they go, it rains. They were in the desert earlier in the year, and it rains because, of course, right? Frank says, what's the difference between cash and GPP? All right, so this is a good question if you're new to like DFS. Cash is like double ups and 50-50s, but DraftKings doesn't really offer 50-50s. So cash games, you're trying to build the safest lineup possible. You're not trying to get first place because 200th place and first place doesn't get paid out any different. You get the same amount of money. So you're not trying to be the smartest guy in the room. You're just trying to beat half the field. So I would build a nice, safe lineup, guys that you think can move up. Because if you pay like $12K for a guy and he doesn't get up front and dominate, you're probably screwed. So I think going safe in cash is the way to go. Yeah, Harvick's fine. I'm not saying I think he's the most likely to lead the most amount of laps, but let's just say Kevin Harvick doesn't get up front and lead laps and he finishes 5th. It might be tough for him to hit the optimal just because of how many other place differential guys and how expensive he is. But I think Kevin Harvick's an amazing play. He'd be my pick to win the race. So you can play him in cash games. It's a little bit different because he's got the first pit stall. Tremendous play. But, other times, sometimes you can fade those kind of guys in cash games. GPPs, that's when you can take risks. Those are those big prize pools. Those are the contests where you can see like 100,000 to first. And those contests, you're trying to be the smartest guy in the room because then the smartest guy in the room or the luckiest guy in the room is going to win the big money, if that makes any sense. Second. Let me check how many people we got. I think it's not updated. Anyway, let me pull the chat back up. All right, OS has thoughts on Quinn Half. I think it's Half, whatever. Am able to get Bowman, Jimmy Johnson, Byron, and others. It's gross. I wouldn't really recommend it because I just don't really see him doing anything. But if you love your lineup and he's the guy that fits last, you can try it, but it's not something I'd really recommend. Dustin says, how do you feel about Corey LaJoie? He's probably your best choice for PD in the cheap range, and he's also the cheapest of that drivers I'm willing to play. So I actually think Corey LaJoie is pretty solid. Where are we at? Oh, Joshua says, who do you like more, Kurt Busch or Eric Jones? Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch was like one of my favorite plays last week on Sunday, and I would probably say pretty similar play this week again. Just starting a little bit higher up, but I think he's going to be lower owned too. Family Man says, thanks, bud. I feel like I must have answered your question, so you're welcome. Aaron says, correction, Xfinity race rescheduled for tomorrow noon. Yeah, that's what I thought. Frank says, I'm playing in a contest that has 2,900 players, and the prizes go out to 768 players. That sounds pretty cash if I had to. What's the name of the contest? Just tell me the name of the contest, because I don't have a calculator out in front of me. Dustin says, Harvick will get to the front, especially with the first pit stall. I agree. In the original video I posted on, was it Monday? I think that's going to be a big benefit for Kevin Harvick. We saw him just leap guys on pit road because of that first pit stall. So, I think he's the most likely driver to get up front, lead laps, and probably win the race. I think he's an excellent, excellent play. I have a good amount of Kevin Harvick. Smoking Guns says, wish I would have listened better on John Hunter. Could have placed in the top 10 in the $1 million tournament. Wow. Yeah, that'd been nice, huh? Still done well, though. Appreciate your hard work and advice. Thank you very much. Appreciate you tuning in. Hugh says, Golding could be a sneaky play since he's in 27 car now. Yeah, it's better equipment than some guys back here. Starting 28th, though, do we really think he's going to top 30? I don't really think so, so I don't have much interest there. John says, what's your feeling on Chase Elliott? So I like all of these guys starting 10K up, but the problem is you can't play all of them. Because if you do, you're playing 15% Harvick, 15% Busch, 15% Truex, 15%, you're splitting your exposure and you're really not going to get an edge on the field either way. So personally, I'm just picking 2 or 3 as a nice core and running with it and hope the other guys don't do better than them. But they're all fine. All these cars are going to do well in this race. Some are going to do better than others. So, and I have my opinions on those on my Patreon. But they're all fantastic plays, really. I wouldn't say, if you told me I'm going to play Hamlin, I'd say, okay, good play. If you told me Elliott, I'd say, okay, good play. Any of these guys are good plays. Jay says you didn't mention Ryan Newman, and you're right, because I don't like Ryan Newman starting 6th. Yeah, he's cheap. He's way too cheap. He should probably be 7,500. But since he's starting 6th, and DraftKings price guys from where they're starting pretty much, I think they did a good job on Newman because I don't think he's a very good play. I don't really see him getting up front. Yeah, he could top 15, but, starting 6th, it's just not much upside. Mr. Miyagi says, I think you're... Whoa. Chat just went everywhere. Hold on. Mr. Miyagi says, I think you're sleeping on Priest. I got Priest projected for negative points. He might lead a lap. It's not going to work out for Ryan Priest, in my opinion. He's probably going to finish outside the top 20, which leaves us no upside at all. Dustin says, what's your take on Bubba Wallace? Yeah, he's one of the guys I'm going to be plugging in my lineups just because I'm not going to play 100% Corey LaJoie, because you should never play 100% Corey LaJoie, unless it's Daytona starting in the back. Sometimes that's okay, but You're going to have to pivot off of LaJoie in some lineups, so I think Wallace is fine. I mean, he's starting pretty high, 21st, right? So, yeah, he's probably going to have to finish right around there, but I mean, if you look at his average finish so far this season, it is 18.3, which is not bad, so Bubba's fine. Let's see, where are we at? Marco says, I'm about to sign up right now. If you did, I haven't looked at my phone, but I appreciate it. I put a lot of extra work on Patreon, so I do appreciate the support on there. If you didn't, that's fine too. I do thank you for tuning into the live stream. The Briz says, thoughts on Truex top 5? Yeah, there's a really good chance Truex could top 5. Early on in that race, when he was racing like junk, he had a hole in the nose of the car, I think they said. So I think, I mean, he was in second at one point of that race, so he's going to have a really good car. Good chance he could get up front too, so don't mind Truex for sure. Aaron says, MLB, that's where I remember your name. If you're talking about baseball, yeah, I did baseballs every single day. I love baseball, so that's what you're talking about. Were we talking about baseball earlier? I think we were. Yeah, I did MLB videos every day. Des Keen said, they said the race is tomorrow. Is this true? Did they say that yet? I haven't been on Twitter, but it wouldn't surprise me if the race is tomorrow. Dustin says, Arlington won lineup in last week's big contest and finished 93rd. That's pretty good because there's like 100,000 people, so 93rd is pretty good. You probably split with some people, but it should be pretty good return on investment there. Ward says, is the race even going down? Is the race even going down? And he put it in all caps, so he seems really interested if this race is going down. And I would say probably not today. Probably gonna be tomorrow. Hopefully I can get the race in just in general. I mean, if not, they'll just refund everybody their contest. But hopefully I can get it on Thursday. Tonight would be awesome, but probably not. Deskeen says, I like Bubba, 43. Yeah, Bubba's cool. Fun driver, good personality. MTV says, with less laps to lead, this race is all about PD, right? I wouldn't say it's all about PD, but it's definitely like probably what you're going to want to lean on this race. Because if, let's say Logano gets up front and leads 100 laps in top 5s, Logano's going to be in the optimal, but do I think that's the most likely scenario? Probably not. Because these PD guys, like Harvick, he's starting 20th. He could get up front and lead 100 laps. Would that surprise anybody? No. Aaron says 100 more miles. What does that help from Sunday's results? 100 more miles? I'm not sure. I don't really understand your question. This is a shorter race. Oh, because it says Toyota 500. It's 500 kilometers, I think. So, but last race was 400. So it's the race is shorter than last week. E-Russ says, yep, Logano going to win race 2. Wow. I don't think he's going to, but he could. I mean, Joe Logano is fine. I mean, he's got 3 top 5s here in the last 6 races. He's got 2 wins this season. I personally see Kevin Harvick winning or probably Alex Bowman, but he could win. Let's see. Ellis says, Eric Jones or Kurt? Just in general, Kurt, but I do think Eric Jones will be lower owned. Jeremy says, I changed my mind on Chase Elliott because of his pit crew. I put a lot of Chase in this week. Well, I think Chase is fine. I don't have much Chase Elliott just because of the guys starting around him, but there's a good chance Chase Elliott can top 5. I mean, he's obviously in great equipment. Hendrick Motorsports, Chevy's been amazing so far. He's led a ton of laps so far this season. 2 top 5s here, which was just recently. I think Chase is fine. DJ Dog says, who is your favorite 7K and below play? 7K and below. I'd say it's a toss-up between Christopher Bell and Cole Custer. Michael says, can McLeod gain a spot or 2? Probably not. It's BJ McLeod. I wouldn't expect much out of BJ McLeod, to be honest. Let's see. This season so far, he's got an average finish of 39. And on the career here, in 3 races at Darlington, he's got an average finish of 36.7. Maybe he finishes 37th, but I would never recommend playing BJ McLeod because it's BJ McLeod. Kobe says, I thought this was a longer race than Sunday. No, that's incorrect. The numbers would confuse you, yes, but it's kilometers. I think that's what it's a shorter race. I promise. Devin says, if it comes down to Bubba and LaJoie, do I go with the better equipment in Bubba? You certainly could, but I like LaJoie just because he's starting further back. And LaJoie on the season, his average finish is, and this is excluding Daytona, his average finish is 25.8, which we'll take 5-6 spots if he can. I'm not saying it's a given, but I think he's going to move up. I think he's more likely to move up spots than Bubba Wallace is. Let's see. E-Rush says, who's your fave point diff place? Well, I'll give you one because they're all on Patreon, and that's paid content. But I'll give you one PD guy I like a lot, and that's going to be Jimmy Johnson. MTV says, are the pit stops being conducted the same way as Sunday? As far as I know, I don't think we have a competition caution out yet. But for the most part, I think that's how it's going. But you should probably check Bob Pockgrass's Twitter before lock just to make sure. Aaron says, were you overweight Sunday on Jimmy Johnson, Chris? I had like 0 lineups with Jimmy Johnson, I think. So I was kind of happy when he wrecked, not going to lie. Apologize if you had Jimmy Johnson, but I don't think I had any. Maybe one lineup with Jimmy. Philly Man says, thoughts on Newman? My thoughts are he's starting way too high. I know he's cheap, and I know this has actually been a good track for him, but starting 6th, there's just no upside. DJ says, Custer, Bell, or Suarez. Probably going to go Bell there. I think he's going to be the higher end of the 3. Probably the safer play. Devin says 131 people are watching. Is that true? It's more than we had last week at once. I think 600 people tuned in general last week, but are we that much? Yeah, 128. Wow. Cool. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. It's pretty good for a Wednesday afternoon. I thought we might get like 30, 40 people. That's nice. Appreciate you guys watching the content. Brian says, thoughts on Hamlin. Hamlin's a good play. Anyone above 10K is a really good play. Just problem is, if I play every single one of them, I'm not going to get much edge on the field. So I want to be overweight on certain drivers. So I picked mine. You can see that on Patreon, but I have nothing wrong with Denny Hamlin. It's a very good track for him. 4 top 5s for the past 6 races. Denny Hamlin's going to run well here, drive well, whatever. But you got to pick and choose the guys you want to be overweight on in this tier. Dylan says 131 people watching. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Wow. Okay. The comment section just took a nosedive to the bottom. 1 second. All right. Family Man says race starts at 5 p.m. Central now. Yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern. Jeremy says race is probably done. So much rain. I agree. I don't see us racing tonight. Hopefully DraftKings moves to lock back because I'd love an extra day of just trying to gauge ownership. Because I try to watch as much content as I can on YouTube, Twitter, whatever, see what people are talking about, because it helps me gauge ownership. Then you can look at ownership projections from other sites as well. But just seeing who people are talking about, you can at least somewhat gauge ownership, because not a lot of people put out NASCAR content. Let's see. J-Man says, thoughts on Ty Dillon. Amazing play last week on Sunday. 0 lineups for me this week. He's not going to finish in the top 10. You could finish in the top 18 maybe, but he's starting 2nd, so he's not going to lead laps. If he leads 1 lap, okay, but he's going to lose a lot of place differential points. Devin says, for the Coke 600, there will be qualifying, right? Yeah, there will be qualifying on Sunday. Don't quote me, but I thought it said 2 p.m. on Sunday. The race is at night. So I'm going to be doing a live stream on Sunday after qualifying once I update my spreadsheet and stuff, and we'll go over a quick preview of the race. I say quick, but all my videos are like 12 hours long. But we'll do that. I'm going to do a preview video on the statistics of everything for Charlotte on probably at the beginning of the weekend, and then we'll do that live stream on, I just saw someone sign up on Patreon, thank you. Then we're going to do the live stream on Sunday after qualifying, because if I do a regular video on Sunday, it probably won't get up till like 5, which is not enough time for enough people to watch it. So we'll do a live stream on Sunday after qualifying. Jeremy says they are not racing today. Then he says, are they racing? Well, I don't know. I hope they are, but I don't think they're going to race. But I know lock's in like 4 hours, so I wanted to get the 3 hours, whatever, in the video out soon. Even if they move lock back, more people will watch this, so works out either way. Frank says, it's the DraftKings NASCAR 2.5 daily dollar first place wins $250. Okay, that's GPP, because not everyone's going to win $250, so that's a GPP, so you're going to play more aggressive in GPPs because you're going to want to get first, because just beating half the field is not going to get the job done in tournaments. So you want to play a little bit more aggressive, try to get a little bit different, because if you play the same lineup as everyone, yeah, sometimes it works and you guys all split first, but trying to go more unique in GPP is the way to go. CJ says, let's hit that like button for this free advice, guys. I agree with CJ. He's a smart man. You should leave a like on the video. I do appreciate that. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Caleb says, what about Bowman? Amazing play. Love Bowman. I can't say one bad thing about Bowman. And I was also doing some digging. I do not have this on my stat sheet on here, but if I was looking at the numbers for Alex Bowman at high tire wear tracks like Chicago, Atlanta, Fontana, Darlington, Bowman's like first in every single category at those tracks in the past like 5 races. So I like Bowman a lot. Britt says, when you say Eric Jones is a great tournament play, does that pertain to picking one driver to place in a top 5, 10 situation? Yes, because if Jones finishes like 15th, that's absolute trash play. But I think Jones has the potential to top 5, to be honest, and get up front. So that's why Jones is a tournament play. And I say tournament because he's starting 13th, but he's got guys priced right around him starting 32nd, 34th, 37th. So it makes him more of a risky play, but I think he's got higher finishing potential, which is good for GBP. Vesper says, you think the race is going to be canceled? I don't think it's going to be canceled if you mean just in total, but I think it's going to get postponed to tomorrow. Let me see how people are watching this now. 135, dang. Awesome. I have to do more live streams. I'll probably do live streams every single week now, since you guys like it. Anthony says, any likes on Austin Dillon and Ryan Newman? Not really. They're just starting a little bit too high. Could Austin Dillon finish 10th? Yeah, but I don't know if that's really going to get the job done. He's fine, though. Peter says, thank you for your great analysis. Sunday I had a ton of Kyle Busch and didn't check the news before the race and broke even. I'm impressed you broke even having that much Kyle Busch, so good job on that. But yes, make sure you guys follow me on Twitter if you haven't, because I'll try to tweet or retweet any important information that I can. I'm not going to just try to be slick and not retweet important stuff so I can get an edge on the field. I'll tweet it out for you guys, so follow me if you haven't already so you don't miss out on news. Conscious, hey, he's back. I haven't seen you yet. You're in. He says, hey, Chris, great to be here. I used tickets in Crowns to enter NASCAR the other day. It made $1. Yeah, nothing wrong with free money there. And we said fade Alex Bowman. I had Harvick and Keselowski all over. It wasn't full fade Alex Bowman. I was underweight on Alex Bowman, which was not the right choice, but we'll keep that on the down low. But, yeah, I didn't have enough Alex Bowman. I wish I had more. But, yeah, Harvick did really good, obviously, and then Keselowski was looking amazing, then he faded late. Wesley says, am I going to update the sheet? It's updated unless something happen. Yeah, you're on Patreon. I'm going to update my GVP exposures later. That's what you're asking, but everything else should be updated. Truex or Bowman, there is a price difference. Yeah, I'd go Bowman there. Tony says tomorrow race is from yesterday's. Yes, but they can also move the Cup race to 7 p.m., I believe. CJ says, what time is inspection? I thought they were doing that now when I started the video. I haven't seen any news, although my friend just sent me a thing on Twitter, so let me check if there was any news that he just... Okay, never mind, it's just a video. All right, R. Stanley says, who are your favorite 2 budget drivers? I mean, probably LaJoy and Bubba, but it's pretty gross down there. Let's see. Michael says favorite lowest price driver, probably going to be LaJoy, but don't expect much out of these guys down here. John had 2 messages retracted. If you did that yourself, okay, but if you didn't, I'm not seeing your message, so I'm not ignoring you. I just can't see it. Curtis says JJ is the chalk. Yeah, I would expect him to be the highest owned driver. Really not that close either. Let's see. Colton says, been watching you since the start of the season. Really like your analysis and such. Hoping I can have a better race today. Yeah, hope so. Thanks for tuning in all season so far. DFS Pope says, just got here. What's up, Chris? Love this. Awesome. Welcome. I know you've been on my channel for quite a while. Seen you in the comment section before. John says, loving the live streams. I'm playing 50 lineups and only have one driver who is Boyer starting in the top 10 of any of my lineups with an increased chance of a rain shortened race. Should I be concerned? Well, I think if the rain was going to shorten the race, I think that'd probably help Boyer. But if he doesn't get up front lead any laps, I don't see Boyer working out. I personally don't really have interest in Boyer whatsoever. But he has a small chance of getting up front lead laps. But I think Logano's going to be the guy that does it, or Keselowski after a little bit. Conscious said, I had Jimmy. Yikes. Yeah, you were probably really happy for a little bit, then he crashed. Stanley's message got retracted. I don't know if you guys are retracting it yourself. Maybe if you might have said an inappropriate word according to YouTube, it might have retracted it, but I'm not ignoring you. I just can't see it. Conscious said I was in the live chat pre-race saying I like Jimmy. I'll admit it. Yeah, I do remember that actually. You were looking smart for a little bit, and you're not dumb because he wrecked. You can't expect a wreck to happen, but he was looking really good. Conscious says you were the man. I was giving out your name on DK NFL Sims. Oh, thank you. I appreciate the plug-in. I'm getting a lot of more subscribers recently, so maybe that's helping out. Curtis says lock is still 6 p.m. DK won't move lock. They've done it before, if I remember correctly. We'll see, though. Let's see. Stanley says, I've been watching you for a long time, and I know you love Blaney, so why is Blaney not a great pick tonight? He's starting up really high, and he just does not show that much promise at Darlington. If we're looking at recent track history for Ryan Blaney, he's got an average finish of 19.7, average running position of 20, drive rating of 69. Does have 2 top 15s, but I just don't expect him to leap Logano and lead laps. And if I don't expect him to lead any laps, he's going to move back, and that's just not what I want out of a guy that's 8,300. And the guys he's priced around are much better place differential plays, in my opinion. So don't really like Ryan Blaney that much. Chris says, I'm the NASCAR GOAT. I don't know if I'm the NASCAR GOAT. I'm just doing my best to put out the best content I can, but thank you if you guys do think that. DFS Pope says, am I wrong for wanting to get a lot of Recce Stenhouse? You're not wrong, but I think in tournaments there's some really good pivots, but in cash games, yeah, for sure you can play Stenhouse. I'm playing Stenhouse in GPPs too, but I do think there is pivots off of Stenhouse. Let's see. Jeremy says you could go 2 expensive drivers and 2 middle to low tier. You could. I have a couple of lineups with 2 guys above 10K. I think the majority of my lineups have like 1, but I do have some with 2. Colton says Sunday live stream hype for sure. I'm looking forward to the Sunday ones. They should be pretty packed, especially for the Coke 600. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but Draftkings has a contest where they're literally giving away free money. Like it's like a $4 contest. You can enter it 5 times, and like last place gets $4. So you do not lose money. So if you guys haven't entered that already, it's literally free money. So I would enter that. Black Babone, something like that. What about Greg Golding starting 28, 4,500 on DraftKings? I just think he's going to move back. I just really can't see him getting like a top 25. So I'm going to pass on Greg Golding. I know he's really cheap, but I think he's cheap for a reason. Matthew says, I placed 1,200 in the Millie last week. That sounds pretty good. There's like 100,000 people in there. Thanks for the content. It was out by True Drivers in the Optimal Line. You're welcome. But yeah, I was really close too. I think my best lineup, I forget what place I got. It was a good week, good profit, but my best lineup, if I would have had Tyler Reddick in there besides Eric Jones, I would have got first, which I think I would have tied with a lot of people, but so close. I think that lineup had like 2,000 salary remaining though, so that's probably why the optimizer didn't give it to me. Michael says DraftKings has not moved to Xfinity Lock, but it has added new Xfinity contest labeled Xfinity New Star. Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty interesting because people know all the ownerships in the other ones, so I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the ownership is different in that one. So that's not something I've ever seen before, I think. Colton says I wouldn't touch Greg Golding. I'm not really going to do that either. Jay Smokes says, what's good, my guy? And nothing much, just chilling in my basement at the moment. A little office space. Ellis B. Official says, who do you prefer between Byron and Logano GPP? I think Byron's the safer choice. Logano could lead laps, but I mean, just in general, I like Byron more than Logano. He will be very high owned though. Curtis says, how many DOMs this race, or do I need any? You could just get away with straight PD. I think that's the smart way to go. And the thing is, these PD guys could lead laps too, like Bowman, Elliott, Hamlin, Truex, Harvick, Busch can all lead laps. So you're technically getting place differential dominators, if that makes any sense. Let's see. Jay Smoke says, good luck today. I'm rolling with Kyle Busch and Truex. There's a lot of salary, but I think they're both good options. Definitely can both get up front and lead laps. We saw Kyle Busch start 33rd before and get up front and lead laps over 100, so it can certainly happen. William says Logano and Stenhouse or Bowman and Reddick. I like the second one a lot, so I would go with the second one, Bowman and Reddick. Jay Smoke says I also like Byron. Newman could also finish top 10. He certainly could. I don't think it's the most likely scenario. I think he probably finishes anywhere from 15th to 20th, which starting 6th not very good, but he has top 10 potential. I just don't think it's likely. Aaron says this is a longer race than Sunday, Chris. Don't believe so. It's only 228 laps. I can double check that because the last race was 293. Yeah, it's only 229 laps. Last race was 293 laps, so this is a shorter race. King says, what's your thoughts on the weather? Sorry if you've already answered it. Just it's okay. I've answered it a lot actually, but I don't mind. I think the weather sucks, and we're probably not going to race till at least tomorrow. And welcome to the stream. I'm not going to go too much longer though, guys. So if you have any questions, get them out now. I don't know how long we've been on here. I guess like 55 minutes, but all my videos are long, so that's fine. DFS Pope says, I had a hard time seeing the GPP exposure on Patreon last week. Is it because of the app, or do I need to go to a website? It's on my Google spreadsheet, so I don't know how easy it is to look at it on a phone. So I know you can view it on the phone, though. It just might not be the best format. If you go on the Patreon and go to post, it should be a spreadsheet post, and then everything's in there, like everything. Maharishi, sorry, I can't say that. Long-time listener, first-time commenter, keep up the good work. Thank you. Feel free to comment more in the future. And he also says hi to Curtis, so maybe you guys know each other. John Jefferson says, we love your shows, Chris. I let Osimo know about you on Twitter. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. He liked one of my tweets before. That's about as much as interaction as we've ever gotten. E-Rush says it has to be the bots. I forget what we were talking about, but I'm sure you were right at the time. Curtis says, W.U. Bud. Probably just talking to, the one guy. Okay, Christopher says, best play under 7K. Probably Christopher Bell, to be honest, but not too thrilled with that. Family Man says, I'm doing lineups now, and I have a headache. Yeah, building lineups this week is tough. I've been crunching a lot of lineups. I think on Fantasy Cruncher, I have like 100 crunches total just trying to get this thing right. It's a pretty... It's a tough week. Draftkings did a good job on pricing because it shouldn't be easy building lineups. So I think it's a good thing. Dylan says Busher on FanDuel was a nice pivot off of the late SP chalk. Yeah. I don't know much about FanDuel, so I'm not going to comment because I don't want to give bad advice. But if someone knows FanDuel better than me, they can feel free to help out Dylan a little bit more. Stanley says, which two drivers would you play in the most lineups? And you are by far the best dogs NASCAR guy. I get what you're saying. Maybe you misspelled it. But which drivers would you play the most in lineups? I'll give you one because I don't want to give out too much paid information. But driver I'd play the most, probably the chalk answer is Jimmy Johnson. He's the safest play. He's in a really good car. He was really fast on Sunday. Starting 37th, there's like no downside here outside of him wrecking again. And if I could tell you guys who's going to wreck and who's not going to wreck, we'd all be living on our own island. So I don't know who's going to wreck, but outside of a wreck, Johnson's going to be a smash play. Mike says, thanks for the videos, man. You are very welcome. Thanks for checking in. Oh, lost the comment section again. Whoops. Where are we? Sorry. Things scrolled down by itself. Okay, there's not much more comments I got to get up to. So I'm going to go to around 3 p.m., guys, and then I'm going to have to cut this off. So if you have any more last-second questions, get them in. But let's see. Andrew says, I think I prefer Kurt over a lot of the top 10 starting drivers. Yeah, for sure. I definitely think Kurt's a much better play than pretty much almost everyone in the top 10, to be honest. Anthony says, any likes on Nemechek? He's okay if he can hang around the top 15, top 18. I think he could top 20 for sure. I don't expect much to change from his car from Sunday, but I think that was like the absolute ceiling we'll ever see out of Nemechek for a while. But he's okay to stick around. We don't have many cheap options. DFS Pope says, I'm going to throw 2 lineups in the $10 Wednesday Wheelman. My question is, for a smaller contest field, does the GPP strategy change? Yeah, smaller fields, I tend to play more cashy. So if I'm playing single entries, I use my cash lineup, which I don't really play cash for NASCAR. I can identify good cash plays, but I prefer GPPs in NASCAR because, if one guy wrecks in your cash lineup, it's going to really suck. And I don't like banking on one lineup the entire week on NASCAR. But yeah. Let's see. Where are we? CJ says the Xfin new start contest sucks though. I haven't looked at it because I don't play Xfinity, but I can't imagine they're that big. I know a lot of people are complaining they didn't refund your money yesterday, but if they never played NASCAR before, every postponed race doesn't get refunded. You just wait the next day or whatever. Donnie Moore says best NASCAR DFS content in the biz. Appreciate it. Thank you. I think we follow each other on Twitter. Yeah. So thanks, Chris. Anyway, question: Yaley or Poole far as dart throws? If you're asking me to pick between one, Yaley or Poole. So I haven't minded Poole this year because he's actually been solid, and I like his price. And if you look at his average finish so far, This season, it's 29.8, which doesn't sound great, but it's actually not bad considering the other guys priced in this price range. Average running position of 30.9. If we look at Yaley, he's got an average finish of 28.3, average running position of 29.4. Since they're so close, I guess I'll go pool because you get to save, like 500 or right off the top of my head, 600, 700, whatever. I'll take those savings on pool, but I'm not expecting him to place above where he's starting. So he's probably going to lose a couple points PD-wise, but if you're playing pool, you're probably just loading up those guys like Bowman, Harvick, whatever. So you're just hoping on those guys to smash, and then hopefully the few points you get a pool won't crush you. So I guess I'll go pool, but if I had to guess who would finish higher, I'd probably go with Yaley. So, but I mean, both are pretty bad, but I understand what you're trying to do. If you're going with a dart, you're just front loading, which is definitely a strategy you can go with in tournaments. CJ says pool. Oops. Straight Fire says, what's good? What's up, Straight Fire? I think you just got in here, so you're a little late. I'm about to end this, but what's up? Nice seeing you. Driver says, some are confused by miles to kilometers. Yeah, they're confusing me a little bit, too. I had to back check. But yeah, last week was miles. This week's kilometers, which is, is 500 kilometers. I'm sorry. Is it 312 miles? I think. So it is a shorter race. Dion says, Busher or Custer? Well, I'm not sure if I can really answer that because there's like over 1,000 salary difference. So they're like different. Like a better question would probably be Custer or Bell. But I think Busher is going to score more points, but he's also more expensive. Stanley says, I'm a big awesome, I think you mean Awesemo fan, but their NASCAR is weak. You should do their NASCAR. I appreciate that, but the guy that does do the NASCAR content for Awesemo he's a sharp guy. I think his name's Phil. I never interacted with him, but I did watch some of the live stream they posted, and smart guy. So, let's see. But I do appreciate you guys thinking I do put good content out. I really do appreciate that. And he had a really good call on Bowman too on Sunday as well. CJ the Great says agreed. Takumi says Bob Podcast just tweeted out there will be a competition cost on lap. Thank you very much. That's very helpful, and I would assume they're going to do the same procedure of everyone keeps their spot, so that could help out Logano. Briz says, thanks, Chris, for the hard work you do. Good luck in your lineups and hoping for a race in the next couple of days. Sure hope so. Same to you, Briz. See you in the next live stream or comment section, whatever. And only going to do a few more questions, guys. Does all your access on Patreon include Discord benefits? Yes, it does. Special Ed. I feel like I'm calling you a mean name. But yes, you get Discord benefits on my Patreon. Whenever you sign up, you have to integrate it in my Patreon, and then it'll put you right in my Discord. I don't know how it works. I'm going to Patreon tech wizard, but it puts you in there magically. William says, how much does the equipment matter? At a track like Daytona, it doesn't matter because it's a wreck fest, but at tracks like this, best equipment's going to rise up to the top. So I really don't see much changing from last race. So I think you're going to see guys like Kevin Harvick, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, all those guys are going to move up front. I mean, guys in the best equipment are going to move up front outside of like having a penalty on pit road or stuff like that. Daniel says, thanks for the hard work. Would you stack all the Hendrick Motorsports racers or try to get different and only play one or two? You could stack them all. Let's look at them. So Elliott's starting 17th, Bowman starting 19th, Johnson starting 37th, Byron's 34th. Yeah, you can certainly do that. They're all great plays. So yeah, no problem with that at all. I don't think you have to do a different one. They're all good plays by themselves. Aaron says, are we sure there's a qualifier for Sunday? Thanks for clarification on number of laps. Number and title is, it's certainly deceptive. I mean, if 500 would definitely think it's going to be a longer race, but I think the number 500 is more marketable, so they call it the Toyota 500 instead of the Toyota, 312? I think that's how many miles it is. Let's see. Special Ed sent the question twice. Maybe I was on accident, but hopefully you heard the first answer. Michael says competition caution is lap 25, not a modified competition, so places can change. So they can change. Yes, I guess it would downgrade Joey and Brad Keselowski if that's what's going on. So if they can change spots, that definitely is going to hurt guys like Logano and Keselowski. So I guess I'd be a little bit lower on them. Scary Flying says, thanks, Chris. And Michael says, it's not. Okay, yeah. All right. So I actually think I caught up to the comment section. So I think we can probably call it. Let me see how many people are still in here right now. 112 still to the very end. Whoops. Sorry, I clicked on my own video. 66 like awesome. Okay, but anyway, I think I'm about to call it. Let me just check the chat one more time, and I think we're good. So appreciate everyone tuning in. Sorry this is such a long video, but you guys seem to really like it, so I guess I don't have to be sorry in the first place. So I'm gonna do a preview video on Charlotte probably whenever salaries get released, probably Friday, and then I'll do the live stream on Sunday after qualifying starts. So appreciate all the support on here. If you want to sign up on Patreon, get access to all the other stuff, feel free to do so. Description below. Follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. And that's pretty much going to be it. So thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry I can't see the chat anymore, so if you asked a question, I'm sorry I don't see it, but I'm going to end the stream. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the race. Hope you guys do well.